Dr. Cinema. My mission, which I have accepted, is to compare and contrast the first three Mission Impossible films. Yep, today's movie face-off is the first three Mission Impossible films. Now, currently, the sixth film is post-production and will be releasing later this summer. And while there are already 5 movies that are released, I'm only going to be focusing on the first 3 for this face-off, mainly because the first 3 movies are just called 1, 2, 3. The other 2 are have subtitles, Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation. Plus, those 2 films, they're on a whole completely different level compared to the first 3. But that'll be dealt with in the next installment. The next time I compare Mission Impossible films. Those 2. Anyway, point is, the first 3 Mission Impossible films. 4 rounds because we have 3 contenders. Let's do this. Round 1. Story. The first film sees a already pre-established IMF team, IMF being Impossible Missions Force, with Phelps as the leader and several other people including Ethan Hunt, played by Tom Cruise. And however, the team gets completely wiped out except for Ethan Hunt, and since he's the only one that survives, the IMF officials and other government people believe Ethan Hunt to be a mole for an arms dealer, and now he has to prove his name and to figure out who the mole is. The second film features on Ethan Hunt with the IMF. He is going to go after a IMF agent that's gone rogue and plans to profit off of a dangerous man-made virus. And the third film, Ethan Hunt is still with the IMF, this time as a recruiter slash trainer. But he is called into action to retrieve an agent that's been captured, but that becomes a situation where he's on the run from the IMF because they believe he's working with another arms dealer. And so he has to get to the arms dealer and to stop him from obtaining a MacGuffin known as the Rabbit's Foot. So yeah, as you can tell, a couple of these stories are a little bit more complex than the other one being the second film. So the first film, I can't remember who directed it, but same guy that's directed the 1976 film Carrie, based off the Stephen King novel, and he also directed Scarface. So that film is a little bit more psychological than the other 2. The second film is directed by John Woo, same guy that brought us Face Off with Nicolas Cage and John Travolta. In other words, it's over the top. The third film is the directorial debut of J.J. Abrams. Lens flare and all. Although, I am going to have to give it to the first film because it is a little bit of an interesting take. I mean, it's a little bit more... It requires you to think a little bit more than the other 2 films. Not saying that they're really films you really need to think about during watching it, but you are trying to figure out what's going on a little bit more in the first film. So I'm going to give this round to the original. Round 2, cast. So the cast of Mission Impossible in the first film is mainly focused on Ethan Hunt, who is, of course, played by Tom Cruise. Nothing really there to elaborate on. Well, I guess maybe a little bit. He's actually a really good actor in these Mission Impossible films. I'm not gonna lie, he's actually pretty good. And then, of course, there's Luther Stickwell, played by Ving Rhames, as one of his allies. And there are a couple other people in there as well, including his old, supervisor guy, Jim Phelps, as well as a couple other government workers, and Jim Phelps' wife, Claire Phelps. In the second film, Ethan Hunt, Luther, another guy who's not really in that much, and a woman who is an ex-girlfriend of the villain who is helping Ethan Hunt trying to take him down. And then, of course, the third film, Ethan Hunt, Luther Stickwell, a couple other people, including Benji, a technician, and his wife, and Ethan Hunt's fiancée, Julia. Now, of course, there are also the villains. In the first film, it's an arms dealer, a woman named Max. Second film, I forgot the guy's name, but he's a former rogue IMF agent. And then you have Davian of the third film, plus a corrupt IMF higher-up person. Now, really, I could pretty much give this one to basically any of the three at first, but in the Mission Impossible 3, Ethan Hunt Tom Cruise actually gives a really good performance. I mean, he falls in love, but then he's back in the field, and now his fiancée is kidnapped, and all sorts of emotions and such going through right now. So I'm going to have to give this round to Mission Impossible 3. Now let's move on to round 3, which is action. Now the Mission Impossible films are known for the stunt work, especially Tom Cruise's, who does all of his own stunts. But that really doesn't get really hyped up or doesn't really get really intense until like the fourth and fifth film. However, that doesn't mean that the first three didn't have some good stuff too. I mean, the original film had that CIA room in Langley where he can't touch the floor, the wall, can't even speak, can't even have his sweat drip onto the floor. It's actually a really tense situation. The second film, it's directed by John Woo, so it's over the top, but still really fun to watch. And the third film seems to be the most, the most balanced in terms of what was seen in the first film, what was seen in the second film. Now, having said that, the second film has the most fun action. I mean, it's over the top. Don't get me wrong. In terms of like later action we would see in the later films, Mission Impossible 3 is closest to how that resembles. But Mission Impossible 2, with its over-the-top director, John Woo, is just really fun to watch, and it's actually really entertaining. I had to give this one to Mission Impossible 2. Now let's move on to the fourth and final round, which is atmosphere. Now, the second film, it's over the top, like I said. Not really the most serious of the first three Mission Impossible films. So that one's kind of out of the run. However, now we are faced with the two real competitors. The first Mission Impossible and the third one. Now, the first one, again, it tries to be more psychological. And like I said, that one stunt in the CIA room is an actually really tense moment. Plus, there is a good little action thing on a train in London that's actually pretty fun to watch. The third film, it's really more emotional of the three. I mean, a fiance being kidnapped and this whole on the run thing, it really tries to build up the tension in the film as an overall piece. The first film was really more of a different action movie at the time because it was released in 1996. The third film, though, feels like it's living up to the full potential of Mission Impossible. I mean, it feels like the things happening are more impossible than the things that happened in the first two films, overall. So, even though the first film did have 1-2 good moments of impossible, the third film has a little bit more of that as the overall process, and it just feels like it's the most balanced one. So I'm going to have to give this round and the face-off to Mission Impossible 3. Now, I have respect for the first film. It is a pretty unique film, especially during the time it came out in. The second film, I love watching the action, and even though it is over the top, it's still entertaining to watch. No disrespect to John Woo. J.J. Abrams, though, his directorial debut of Mission Impossible 3, is the winner of this movie Face Off. So, hopefully the next time we do one of these videos, I'll do Ghost Protocol versus Rogue Nation. But until then, like, comment, subscribe, share, and once this video is over, your computer will self-destruct in 5 seconds after the end of this video. See you next time.